Let's bring in now former Victorian Liberal Party President Michael Kroger and former Labor Senator Graham Richardson. Great to see you both as always on a Wednesday. Look, I want to start with the polling that I just mentioned a moment ago, that the majority of voters now blame Anthony Albanese and his government for the skyrocketing power prices. Michael, this polling wasn't overwhelmingly positive for the coalition either. It had Labor just ahead on a two-party preferred basis. But it seems that no voter can forget the Prime Minister's broken promise. So, what do you make of how big of an issue power prices will be at the election and just where it's up to overall right now?
I'd prefer to start with Mr Yassim, but anyway, I think you said it all, Shari. Look, this is a monstrous issue. It is the dominant policy issue that we remember from the 2022 election. The 275 promise, repeated 100 times, it was the dominant issue in the whole election. And the average working middle class voter saw that, believed that, and voted for Albanese accordingly. Apart from the fact there was a 9-year-old Liberal government, the most powerful political policy they had in that campaign was that promise. People believed it, acted on it, and it's coming back to bite him. And all this twisting and turning when every time Bowen or a minister's asked about the promise, it was Ukraine or something. People are furious that they were lied to, right? This was a con job. There was no proper modelling. This was just an advertising gimmick that Albanese was told to run with to get him over the line. It won him tens of thousands of votes. It's coming back to bite him, and I'd be absolutely certain the Liberal Party will be reminding everybody they were lied to at the last election and don't believe in Albanese next time.
Richo, do you think Albo would be better off just apologising to Australians, saying he got it wrong, but because he can't pretend those comments weren't made? Everyone remembers that he did promise cheaper power prices, and even if they forget, like Michael just said, the coalition aren't going to let them forget it.
Of course they're not, and I don't understand why politicians are always so afraid of saying, sorry, I mucked that up, I'll now fix it up. I do not understand why they won't do that. It goes back, Keating would never do it, but you have to do it. The mob know, everybody knows there's been a stuff up, so why would you be hesitant to admit it?
No, I think that's absolutely right. Just in terms of the overall polling though, Michael, where do you think Dutton is at the minute? Because, before this particular poll had the coalition ahead, now it's got Labor ahead.
So I think Peter Dutton and the opposition had a few flat weeks, and Labor probably have made up some ground. That's been apparent to me for a month. But I can see the wheel turning back again. I think Dutton's probably 51 to 52, somewhere around there. I still think he's on 72 seats. I still think he's going to win the election. The budget will not help Labor. The advertising campaign on that promise is not going to help Labor. And Shari, as I said before, he's got another huge issue, Green preferences. Is he going to tell Labor voters to put the Greens second? I mean, this is a repulsive organisation now, the Greens. It's an extremist organisation that has smashed social cohesion in this country, as you've pointed out on many occasions. Is he going to ask Labor voters in McNamara to vote for the Greens ahead of the coalition? So he's still got to answer this question. Every time he's asked, he fobs it off to the National Executive or the organisational wing. In the end, it's his decision. And he's got to confront that issue one way or the other. And I think we know what he's going to do, and that's going to be very bad news for him.
The Nightly has a front page story tonight, so their nightly edition tonight, where they're saying that the Prime Minister is even boasting of winning another 4 seats. So, Richo, it sounds like Albanese is getting overly confident. He's telling people at private dinners that he's actually going to pick up seats. He doesn't think Dutton can win.
I wouldn't write him off picking up seats. And if you're a political leader and you are not an optimist, especially when you're at dinners of supporters, then you're a mug. So, of course, he's doing that. He has to project an image of confidence. He has to look like he is certain he'll win the election. If he doesn't look like that, then people will take advantage of it.
I don't think people like arrogance either, though, which is what it sounds like this boast was. But we'll come back to that. Now, Peter Dutton has put forward the idea that prospective migrants, would be tested on anti-Semitism in their citizenship test. Now, he suggested adding a question to the exam to ensure applicants are adequately screened. Now, the Prime Minister immediately was dismissive of this idea. Have a look at this.
It's another soap bubble. We'll see if it lasts till, you know, a couple of hours away. Yesterday's didn't make it to lunchtime, so we'll wait and see what happens. The coalition have run a campaign complaining that too many Australians were making the citizenship pledge who'd been in the queue, some of them for years.
Michael, firstly, I think this is so insulting from the Prime Minister not to take this proposal seriously of stopping anti-Semites coming into the country. But I do think it would need to be more than just a question. There'd need to be some social media checking as well, depending on which part of the world people were coming from.
Yeah, of course. I think it's preferable you don't have people coming to this country to live permanently who hate Jews and who are brought up in an education system where they're taught to hate Jewish people. I don't think that's good for our country, and I don't think anywhere near a majority of Australians would think that was a good idea. But I'll tell you what's happened here. That was an appalling comment by Albanese, right? That was a shocking comment. Why would he say that? I'll tell you why he said that. Because on Monday this week, Peter Dutton did the right thing, came out and he and Tim Wilson and Benson Salo, the candidate McNamara, and James Patterson made an announcement of $35 million to help rebuild the Adass Synagogue in Melbourne. Great announcement. Albo came out yesterday and promised almost the same amount. Very good work by the Prime Minister in doing that. But you just imagine what's happened internally within the Labor Party. Tony Burke, the large Muslim constituencies in those western suburb Sydney seats, will have been furious that Albanese is giving $31.2 million to the Jewish community in Melbourne. They will have been furious. His phones yesterday afternoon or Tuesday and today will have been ringing off with people complaining about his support for the Jewish community. So today he's come out and made this ridiculous contribution somewhere in order to sort of balance things up a bit. I don't do what I don't follow Dutton on this stuff. I've got my own views, and I don't think we should do this. It's a soap bubble. Right? I think that's what's happened here. He's copped huge flack in the last 2 days for helping donate money to rebuild a synagogue firebombed by Jewish extremists.
Burnt to the ground
by
in
Jewish
some parts.
hating racist extremists. So he's done the right thing, and no doubt Tony Burke and others, I'm not saying Burke specifically, but people around the left of the Labor Party and the Muslim community have been furious with him ever since Monday. That's what I think.
Yeah. Well, let's turn to Trump, Russia and Ukraine. We know that the president had a 2-hour phone call with Putin. Look, he managed to extract some concessions, but it clearly wasn't the deal he was hoping for, because Putin said no to a 30-day ceasefire. He did agree to stop targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure effective immediately, but then there were reports that he resumed targeting the infrastructure. So, Richo, do you have confidence that Trump is going to reach an agreement that doesn't involve giving Russia more Ukrainian land?
I never have much confidence in anything that comes up with Putin. I think he's one of the worst murderous grubs I've ever known in politics, and so I worry about Trump's looking friendly occasionally towards him. I don't think we should be friendly to this fella at all. This guy killed people personally, let alone we're using the apparatus of the state. And so you don't admire that. You criticise it and you condemn it.
Well, I understand the tactic of not criticising Putin while you're trying to get him to agree to a ceasefire or a peace deal. But, Michael, at this point, and look, I hope more than anything that Trump can get a deal done here. But at this point, it doesn't look promising. What do you think?
You don't know fully what's happening behind the scenes. I think that's the first thing to say. But to the extent that we know from the public statements made by both leaders on the details of the conversations, and they've been picked over by many journalists who basically concluded that Putin did better than Trump. My worry is that he's got this completely wrong. Instead of hitting on Zelensky first, he should have been hitting on Putin first. I mean, Zelensky was easy to get him to agree because the country's being smashed. The first port of call should have been with Putin. Now it looks like on the surface, it's looked like Putin can just sit there month after month after month. He'll still be president long after Trump's gone. And so he can wait him out as the Chinese and the North Koreans waited Trump out in 2020. He can wait him out. And the longer it goes, the worse it is for Trump, because don't forget again, this was one of his major campaign election promises that he'd fix it in a day, meaning he'd fix it in a few months. If he can't fix this on reasonable terms, it's very damaging to Trump, and it doesn't read so good so far.
And the issue is that Putin, of course, knows that Trump desperately wants to get this done. But, you know, we haven't given up faith.
Correct.
We'll see where this ends. All right, Michael Kroger, Graham Richardson, great to see you as always on a Wednesday.